I was put in a position in like 1988 where I didn't pull the trigger, I gelled. Wow. And my boys actually, were clowning me and making fun of me and stuff like that. When I finally got upstate and seen dudes doing life bids, most of them dudes all wish that they could take it back.
Ain't got a moment when they see you down, there's no they love and all that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back Podcast. I got a special guest with me today. Why don't you tell the people your name, where you're from, and why you decided to come up here today?
Peace, I'm Mathematics. I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I decided to come up here because I see you doing something real, something positive, and I wanted to share my input that might be able to help somebody, benefit somebody, might give somebody some insight so they don't go through the same thing I went through.
What part of Cambridge you from?
So I grew up on Concord Ave in West Cambridge.
Yes, sir?
Yeah.
Just run down real quick. Where did you go to, like middle school and then high school?
I used to hang out down the Tobin, but I went to the Peabody. I used to hang in Walden Square, Lincoln Way, did some running in Ridge Towers, that whole NC area.
How'd you do in school? Were you a good student? Did you show up?
So every single year from kindergarten all the way until I graduated high school, I've been suspended from school at least one time. I always had behavior issues. I always had issues with like trying to fit in, wanting everybody to like me. I didn't know then that I had this disease that, of addiction and alcoholism. So validation, approval, and acceptance were my first three addictions. So I would act out in school so that people would think I was cool. I was always trying to, rather than standing out, I was always trying to fit in.
The first thing you touched as far as substances?
This started off with weed, started off with drinking, seeing different people growing up using substances, seeing family members, friends, cookouts, people drinking, seeing people that I, looked up to, seeing them smoke and stuff like that. So because I saw these people doing those things, I said to myself, if they're doing it, then it must be okay.
And do you remember how old you were when you first touched your first?
13.
13 years old?
I graduated, I was one of those kids, my birthday's in September, so I graduated at 13, and we get out of school a little bit early. So that summer that I got out early, I got promiscuous. I was hanging out with this older kid, rest in peace, Jeffrey Weaver, and we were like hanging out, and then, we found some weed in a spot. I didn't know what it was. I presented it to him. He said, I know what it was. And then that's kind of like what sparked. That's the first time I ever slept with a woman. And then I sold my first drugs at 13 too. So I grew up as also as an only child. So I suffer from only child syndrome, meaning that like I'm always feeling alone, always feeling empty, always feeling like kind of had a hard time sitting with myself. So I would always be looking for different people to hang with, different people to be cool with me. Because Ma Dukes, I'm a product of a single mother. So Ma Dukes had to work 2 jobs. And so if Ma Dukes and, if your father's not there to raise you, then what I was seeing on the TV screen with NWA, Eazy-E, Dope Man, all that stuff started transforming my mentality into like, if I do what they're doing, this is when like Yo MTV Raps versus came out and all the videos and stuff. And that's when like they called it back then, gangster music first came out. So I was far from gangster, but I figured I could fit in and be gangster, you know what I mean?
Would you say those are like gateway drugs?
Yeah, so
Why?
seeking validation, seeking approval, depression, low self-esteem, not really feeling confident in myself, not having my pops around. My pops is a good dude, but like a lot of dudes, he just didn't know how to prioritize fatherhood. I did the same thing. I didn't know how to prioritize fatherhood my whole life. So I know now that 70% of the people that are incarcerated grew up without a father, and I know 85% of the alcoholics and addicts out there grew up without a father. So that's what there's this void that I'm trying to fulfill. I want that approval and that validation from my pops, and he's just not there. And one of my first traumas is that, in my eyes, I got the best mother in the world, my old earth, and but she overloved me. You know what I'm saying? And when I say she overloved me, it's kind of like, one of the things that happened was she tried to protect me because my father, when he was younger, he was into some things just like I used to be into some things, and she tried to protect me from it, so she left the home. And she told me that another guy was my father that wasn't. And I feel now like she might have had a little bit of guilt about that, but she was just doing her best to protect me. She was young, she was trying to protect her son. So I grew up thinking one dude was my father, but he really wasn't. So one of the things that my mother did was she kind of overloved me, meaning that like she just didn't teach me healthy boundaries. She didn't teach me like discipline. She didn't kind of teach me things that could keep me grounded. You know what I'm saying? And so I grew up with this thing that like I was going to be able to do what I want. Everything was going to be okay. I could go into places. Rules don't apply to me. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So that was, I would love to say that with the story I got, I would love to say that I grew up in this rough neighborhood, going up in these rough situations, but I kind of had a good upbringing. You know what I mean? You know, the streets, I chose the streets, I chose the lifestyle, but I realize now that I chose it because I was feeling uncomfortable on the inside. So I'm constantly reaching something on the outside to make me feel whole and make me feel complete.
When I'm doing this, it's all about getting the different perspective.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because when we sitting in that jail and in that prison, there's people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sometimes me and you, we got the same story, you know, but this guy from wherever, it's a little bit different. So it's always good to get the different stories to how people wound up in the same place. What exactly was the situation with your father? Was he a young father? And do you think that you lacked discipline? Did your mother lack disciplining you in the proper way?
So I would get in trouble in school all the time, and she would discipline me, tell me I'd be on punishment for 2 weeks. Then after like 4 days, I'd butter her up. She'd let me off. I didn't know then that those little punishments then would turn into years and years in prison. But now my father was a good dude. Just, you know, he was caught up in the street life. You know what I mean? My mother's side of the family's real reserved, educated, kind of quiet, you know what I mean? All about family. My father's side of the family, we're all construction workers. We have multiple kids by multiple different women to prove our manhood. And we were all kind of about the streets. So I went upstate and there was multiple of my cousins. My father's last name is Fernandez. So a lot of my cousins did time before we were in the street life. Good dudes too, you know what I'm saying? But we just lacked direction. So when we lacked that direction, we ended up falling into things that we probably shouldn't have. And a lot of my decisions were all just based, I know now, because I'm self-aware and self-educated, that a lot of the decisions I made was all based off of fear, right? So it's all fear, like I gotta act a particular way because of fear. I gotta act gangster over here because of fear, you know what I mean? Even though I did have a good upbringing, it's not in my makeup to just wanna go out and do particular things. But if you put some drugs in my system, I will come and do something that normally I wouldn't do if I was in my good state of mind. You know what I mean?
So talk about that fear a little bit. Was it fear of not being accepted by your peers? Was it just fear of the streets or a fear of somebody's physical intent of violence?
Yeah.
Talk
So
about that.
by myself, I had a lot of fear. But when you put me with my boys, then all of a sudden the courage comes out. But by myself, just like anybody, I had little squabbles growing up, little incidents, but I noticed that I would turn into someone different. We had this little crew back in the day, it was called Vamp. You know, there was about 30 or 40 of us. We used to all run down the port, you know, and when we were all together, I was a different person than if I was by myself. If I was clean, sober, right, I was one person. But if you put some Manischewitz, some weed, back in the day we used to smoke cane squares, you gave me a few sniffs, then all of a sudden I got this liquid courage to have me be someone that I'm not. You know what I mean?
So it's that mixed with the pack mentality too.
Yes, and the pack mentality where like we would be walking down the street, you know, 20, 30 deep, and you know, who was gonna do anything with us? So then it gave a false illusion that, you know, how gangster you are, how tough you are. But it wasn't that I was that gangster or that tough. It was just that I was in a pack, right? And it gave me some courage that I really didn't, you know, that I might not have had if I wasn't on my own.
Absolutely, strength in numbers. That's a saying for a reason. At what age were you when you figured out this whole father situation, and how did that affect you?
So I realize now that I got this thing, it's called From Pain to Purpose. And the N in pain stands for narcissism. And I know that narcissism comes, I have a lot of narcissistic traits. And I realize now that normally narcissists had something happen to them emotionally when they were younger. So that emotional bond basically that was broken caused me not to trust people in an emotional way. I'll connect with you on a very shallow level, but it's hard for me now to connect to people on a real deep level because of, like, I don't know, my emotions just don't trust it. You know what I mean? I just don't feel secure, or I have to, you know, when someone's getting real close, then all of a sudden I'll find a way to backpedal because it's like you're getting too close. You know what I'm saying?
And what age were you when you found out about your father? And how did you feel about your mother at that point? Did you feel a type of way towards her?
Yeah, I was like 11.
Okay.
You know, and my mother's my everything. Like I said, I'm an only child. We were like close like this. Like
There was no resentment.
There was no resentment.
Figure if she did it, then it's probably for a good reason.
I didn't understand. I was close with her ex-boyfriend. His name was Richard, and he did his best. You know what I mean? He did his best. You know, for when he can. But then, you know, I met my father, and he's a good dude. He didn't always have like the good emotional component, and he wasn't always supportive in kind of like certain ways as far as like just making sure I had a hug before I went to sleep, or checking on my homework, or seeing how my day was mentally and emotionally. He was more like, get him out here, do this work. Jack him 100 feet of concrete a day, put him in a machine, let's teach him how to drive. You know, like a lot of dudes. He wanted me to be the ultimate football player. I went to Ranger Latin. I played freshman year football.
Nice.
But once I got caught up in the drugs, man, the mental obsession was so strong that I couldn't focus on like going to practice. I couldn't focus on my schoolwork. There was just, my morals and values shifted.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It really shifted to like the street mentality and becoming someone that I'm not versus who I was really raised. And it'd be like, I went to church school growing up. I was an angel without wings. I went to good camps. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I knew right from wrong. I come from a good upbringing. I understood the difference between doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. But I'm attracted to the wrong thing. For some reason, the street life, the doing the wrong thing, and the attention and the validation and the approval. And then once I seen that could get me girls and put me in, had me like certain people that I might not feel as though I'm in a position to be cool with for whatever reason. When I started doing those wrong things, it kind of made me feel down and a part of. Even though my spirit, I knew I shouldn't do that, me being down was more important than doing what I was supposed to be doing. You know what I mean?
You know, you got into the streets and the drugs, and that kind of kept you away from football. At this point, is it hard drugs? Are you getting to the harder drugs, or is it still just, not just, but is it still weed and alcohol at this point?
So it was weed and the right off something. So I have a disease that's progressive for some people, but for me it was instant. So it was like weed at 13. Then it turned into drinking, the same at 13. And then around 14 or 15, I was hanging out with these older dudes. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she had a brother-in-law, and me and him got real cool, and they were older than me in their 20s. So we started sniffing cocaine, and anything I did, I became immediately addicted to. You know, I love the feeling. I love the confidence. I love the way it make me feel. I love the power and the illusion that it gives me that I have control of the other people when I'm selling it, and then the confidence that it gives me when I do it. You know what I mean? But I was turned out by an older dude. He was a few years older than me growing up, and we went downtown, and he just went into, there was a spot called Mickey Fence, and he bought me some all suede Diodoros, and he was just like, yo, pick out any shoe you want. Those are for you. And that's kind of how I got introduced to the drug game, to the hustle game.
And at this point, as he's introducing you to this, does he give you the raw side about it, that could end up here, prison, death, jail, or is it more like a glorified thing?
Glorified. So that's kind of why I'm on here today, and I carry a message in the schools today that, you know, there's a penalty if you make bad decisions. There's a reward if you make good decisions. And the penalty normally teaches me, like, if it wasn't for the penalties and the consequences, I wouldn't be sitting here today. But unfortunately, I never learned anything about the consequences of making bad decisions until I already had a Walpole number. My first Walpole number was W48848. And I didn't know about the consequences. No one educated me about the consequences. And I don't want to say that I didn't know right from wrong, but I didn't realize, I remember the night before I was getting sentenced, because I copped out in August 6th of 1990. We went up to Concord, drove around the prison, and that was actually the first time that I ever really saw a prison, because I never did any DYS time. I went right from the streets. I did 10 days in Cambridge back in the day, and then it was right into the big house with the big boys. So there was never anybody. I didn't learn the ins and outs of if you make bad choices, what can happen. until I was already upstate. So now what I do is I try to go into the schools and I tell the kids, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to make you aware this is what can happen if you make bad choices. You know what I mean?
It's cause and effect, like you said. Bad choices are probably going to come with bad results, and
Yes.
good choices and good actions, right? Cause and effect. Anything you do, there's an effect, there's an after, there's a ripple effect. So obviously that makes a lot of sense. Getting locked up. Why don't you just walk me through the events that lead up to that first Walpole thing?
So, as you know, as time went on, I started selling cocaine on a regular basis. Ma Dukes has found stashes in the crib, half ounces, ounces. It made me flush them. I went to Ridge Latin for 2 years, got kicked out. They sent me to Chapel Hill, Chauncey Hall in Waltham. I couldn't make the adjustment from a public school to a private school. I was just a little bit too off the hook. You know, Chapel Hill, Chauncey Hall was in Waltham.
Okay.
And so I was still accessible to get on the 78 and come back down here. Like I told you, I used to run down Newtown Court. I used to run down the Terrace with all my boys. So I was still in the mix. And so I ended up getting kicked out of the private school and coming back, and I was going on up to Purity Supreme at night and taking night classes. But I'm still doing my addictions full blown. I didn't know then. I sold drugs all my life. So all my life, I've always been more of a hustler, a finesser, womanizer, get with the girls. I always knew how to get jiggy, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I was always a decent dresser. So that would always mask the fact that like I got a problem with drugs and alcohol. So I got caught with a sawed-off shotgun in 1989. So I was one of the first 10 in Massachusetts to sell drugs to an undercover cop, where you sell to the state trooper and then they come back and get you months later.
Wow.
I was one of the first 10 in Massachusetts to ever do the school zone. I sold drugs to a state trooper in Newtown Court, and then the Fletcher School that's on the corner of Broadway was 1,000 feet. So I went upstate for that, and then I had some other assault and battery and some other charges. And it was just kind of like once I broke that ice with getting in trouble, that's kind of been the narrative. But every time I get in trouble, drugs and alcohol are involved. Yeah. Either whether it's I'm selling it or whether I'm doing it. And ever since I've taken that substance out of my life, I've been actually out of prison now, going on since 2017.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Congratulations.
So
You should be proud of yourself for sure.
But a lot of the, you know, like I said, I never carried a gun. Like I don't have the mentality to wake up. I don't represent projects. I don't represent street signs. I respect Bloods. I respect Crips. But I do the guard thing as far as like representing the guards. So I've never really been into like, that's just never been in my spirit and my soul to run around and just wake up with a mentality of like, yo, I'm gonna go out here today and just rep for my hood and do. But out of fear. If I'm going to sell you some drugs and I'm intimidated by you, then yeah, that's when I'll bring the strap out. It was never based off of, because that's just who I am and I want to get a rep off for that. To be honest with you, I was put in a position in like 1988 where I didn't pull the trigger. I gelled, and my boys actually, you know, were clowning me and making fun of me and stuff like that. When I finally got upstate and seen dudes doing life bids, most of them dudes all wish that they could take it back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? All of them dudes wish that they did something different. I got a boy now who's been down for 31. He calls me all the time on my man Cap. And it's like sometimes when you make that bad decision, I was blessed that I got caught with it before I ended up using it. Me, who I am, wouldn't have used it. But if you put some wild Irish rose in me, you get me lick it up, I'll do something that normally I wouldn't do it for my profit. And it's not me with the courage to do it. It's the liquor and the drugs giving me the courage to do it.
And the way I look at that is anything that kind of takes your willpower away, that's straight up the work of the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With drugs and alcohol. Like you're saying, that's not something I don't do. That's not in my morals, values. It's not how I was brought up.
Yeah.
So something that's going to take that away,
Yep.
to me, that's the devil right there, or evil within itself for sure. So you're running the streets, you're in the game, you're hustling. Anybody around you getting locked up? Is that anything you see?
Yeah, so I'm seeing some of my boys go to DYFs. We're going up there. I'm going up there to visit them at the DYFs. My other man, my OG, He went to Plymouth. I was going to visit him in Plymouth. So I'm seeing dudes getting locked up. My father owned a big construction company. He was a millionaire. He's been a millionaire 3 times. He's been real successful. So I always had the ability to like go work for him and then still sell drugs on the side. And I had a lot of opportunities in life as far as like my father owning a construction company, my mother putting me in private schools, just being given like opportunities like doing tutoring programs, people being willing to work with me. Everybody always saw the potential in me, but I never saw the potential in myself because all I ever wanted to do was be what everybody else was doing. I was, you know, basically my whole life I've been a follower, right? And whatever they were doing on TV, whatever they were doing in the streets, what everybody was saying was gonna make you popular, that's kind of what I wanted to do.
So what would you say like is the worst thing about, other than obviously the obvious getting locked up or things happen with the hustling, what's the worst part about that, like on the day-to-day thing? Or is it all gravy at that point to you?
On the day-to-day for me, it's the facade. It's the mask, you know what I mean? I love the way Jim Carrey says that a lot of the reason why people are depressed is because they need deep rest from the character they're playing. Wow. And I've been playing a character, man, since I was 13. You know what I mean? If everybody over here is calling themselves niggas, I'm calling myself a nigga. If everybody over here is talking about how many women they sleep with. So on the day-to-day for me, it was like trying to just continue to put on what mask am I gonna wear today so that I can be someone I'm not? And what mask am I going to put on today to kind of hide what I'm doing? It's heavy to walk out the streets every day and have to like, and back in the day, it wasn't like it is now. You could walk around with like a pound all bagged up in your pants. They didn't go bad on your pants. But every day for me, it was just like, how am I going to sell? How am I going to do it without getting caught? We got beef with these dudes. It was always a worry. Ever since I was a kid, it was, how am I going to get more? How am I going to get the next one? How am I going to get someone that's 21 to go to the liquor store for me? You know what I mean? It's always been like a battle of trying to worry about, you know, how am I going to get the next one to do the next thing?
Did the using ever interfere with the selling?
Yeah.
And how?
So I would go back when I was younger, like re-up, bag everything up. You know what I mean? And one of my gifts is I got the gift of gab. I can talk a dog off from meat wagon. I can sell Jordans to Mike. I can sell fire to a fire station. So I fell many a times, and because I always was able to hold a job with construction, I could get back on my feet quick. But I knew back then that like it would be daylight at 16, 17 years old. I'd still be smoking cane squares. I'd still be sniffing, still be drinking, still be smoking. So for a long time, because I always had the drugs, I never thought I had a problem. You know what I mean? And because I had some nice clothes, I never thought I had a problem. Because I had a job, I never thought I had a problem. I had shorties, I had girls. My name was ringing bells. Dudes would, you know, everybody, I felt as though that I didn't have a problem. And that kept me sick for a long time. You know, I never wanted to address my issues. And I would do the same thing when I would go to prison, knowing that drugs and alcohol are the reason why I'm there, whether it was because of selling it. And half the time I realize now that I was just selling to really maintain my habit. But then I would go into prison and I would put on these facades. I would never want to address really what got me there. You know what I mean? For my first 3 state bids, I always avoided the drug program. Too busy wanting to lift weights. Who's gonna come visit me? Who's a rat? Who's a snitch? Where you from? You know what I mean? All this stuff that at the end of the day, it really don't, where's your paperwork? Don't use the phone to, all, you know what I mean? All this stuff that really never really means nothing. And so, you know, and then back then I would always get mandatory sentences, so I couldn't get good time. And I would do programs, don't get me wrong. I would do a lot of reading. You know, I became an Orthodox Muslim in 1990. They used to call me Dawu. Then when I went back in 95, I became a part of the Nation of Gods and Earths. And so I did some good things while incarcerated, but when I get there, I don't know how to like maintain it when I get out.
So let's talk about that first time in Walpole. Was that your first time getting clean since you started using? Or was there any, that was the first time?
That was the first time I was clean since probably 1984, 1985. When I went in, it was constant. It might not be hard drugs all the time,
Right.
but it was either
Something
a
every
joint,
day.
it was something every day.
Okay.
And I started sniffing this thing back in the day. We used to call it scramble. And so it was like old dope. They used to sell bags and they would throw it and they would use the scramble. So me and my man, I ain't gonna say his name, we would sit up all night playing double dribble and sniffing scramble. This is like 16 years old, you know what I mean? We didn't have dope habits yet, but we were like, we would sniff, we were on our way, you know what I'm saying? And you know, and so it was yeah, it was definitely a big part of. It was an evolving thing, but when I went to Walpole for that first time, that was the first time ever that I was sober since I was 13.
Okay, and was it Walpole or Concord?
So I went to Walpole for like 48 hours, 72 hours.
Okay.
Then I transitioned down to Concord.
At that point, were you kicking the dope?
Nah, not
yet?
then.
Okay.
Not.
How old were you at that time?
17.
What was the bid they gave you?
3 to 5.
3 to 5?
3 to 5 with 2 years mandatory. 2 years mandatory for the school zone, and then a year mandatory for the sawed off.
Okay.
And then they gave me 2 years probation. So after the 2 years mandatory, I was eligible. So I went upstate. It was a sweet bid for me. You know what I mean? I'm one of them dudes where like I said, I don't be on no kind of that kind of time. So I probably did a smooth bid. My first bid, I was building with the Muslims, and then I actually went down to I went to Norfolk in '90. Okay. First I went to SC Concord. From Concord I went to SCCC. From SCCC, I got a lateral to Norfolk. I wrote the commissioner, told him I was trying to take the college courses, so they sent me to Norfolk. Then from Norfolk, Bay State opened up as a minimum. I went there, and then they shipped me to. I put in for the cadre at Lancaster, so I went to the cadre at Lancaster, and then no, that was on my second bid. I went from Bay State to Concord Farm. Okay. And then from Concord Farm, I ended up wrapping up from Boston State.
So that first state bid, did you touch a drug or homebrew or anything like
that?
Nah,
not. So for some reason, when I get locked up. Not this on the last bit. I was sniffing some Sobos, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But for some reason, when I get locked up, no longer do I use. It's crazy.
Why do you think that is? It's just
I don't know what it is. It's kind of like I would get in there. I don't know. I don't know if it was the fear of getting lugged, the fear of getting the dirty urine and getting my canteen stopped, going to the hole. You know, when I went to
the price.
When I the price, all that, yeah. So when I came from SCCC, back in the day, you would have to go to Norfolk and go to the RB and go to the hole before you could go to population. Sometimes it used to be like 14, 21 days. So after I experienced being in that RB for them 21 days, I was like, man, I ain't trying to get lugged and get into no trouble. So to be honest with you, I don't know what it is, why once you put me in incarceration, why I can stop. But as soon as I get back out the door, I can go right back to what actually I just didn't do it for 3 years. But I realize now that like I was doing things while I was incarcerated that were building my self-esteem. I was working out every day, right? I was getting little jobs. I was going to the NA and the AA. I was walking the quad, walking the yard, building with brothers. You know what I'm saying?
Were you invested in the AA, NA that first bid?
Nah, it was more or less for the good time, but the seeds were getting planted. I know now that like if I plant a seed today, it doesn't all blossom and grow tomorrow. You know what I mean? So it actually takes some time. But the seeds were being planted. I was involved in some things. I took some college courses from BU, from Mount Wachusett, from Mount Wachusett. And I would get pretty decent jobs in like culinary arts and stuff like that. So it was pretty dope. I can't seem to figure out.
So my brother's in the he's in Concord now. He's in a college course. Ran through Tufts. I want to address this too. They're closing down Concord, so the program's up in the air, and I think they really need to keep that program. Hopefully, they could get it to Norfolk and get everybody in the college program moved to Norfolk or something like that. But how important do you think it is to get some sort of education in there?
I know now that like I suffer from low self-esteem. I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. So what I do is I use an inflated ego in certain areas of my life to really mask my brokenness. You know what I'm saying? To mask my insecurities. So in order to build self-esteem, you got to do esteemable acts. You got to go to school and start to see you can do something different in order to be like, you know what, man, I don't have to do what everybody else is doing to feel good about myself. You need those. My man goes in and teaches yoga every Sunday now in Norfolk. There's like a whole bunch of different things that actually can help you feel good about yourself. But I was in an event at Tufts University, spoken word, poetry, open mic, and some of the brothers that were there, they got out. You know, I work with the Lift program sometimes. It's every other Thursday night, and some of the brothers were there were actually in the Tufts University program, and they've got like a full ride to go to school after they've gotten out. So school is real important because you grow from what you know. You know what I mean? You know, and like that's how brothers can come home. Most brothers that are incarcerated and start to read, start to go to school, start to get some programming, do some inner work, some shadow work, some healing work, start doing some things. Those brothers never go back.
I think it's important too, not even the stuff that you learn, but learning how to learn.
Yes.
For when you do get an interest in something. That's super important.
That's kind of like what my whole life's been about, is been unlearning the wrong behaviors and relearning the right behaviors. You know what I'm saying?
Now that first bid, the 3 to 5, was it did you get the parole?
Nah, so parole came up to me and asked me if I wanted to take parole. And I was basically doing a sweet bit. I was like, nah, because if I took the parole, I'd be on parole for 3 years. So I ended up just wrapping up in Boston State. We were going out to work at night, coming back to Boston State to sleep. And then I was working on the night shift at Boston State. It was sweet. You know, I was able to get up with my girl and hang out at the time. I was doing, you know, I think we got a pass on Sundays for 8 hours. So when parole came, I was like, I'm good. I was like 6 or 7 months away from my rap. And I kind of carried that as like, I had a little bit more swag after my first bid. I thought that, you know, doing a bid made me a man. I thought that made me gangster. I thought that people were supposed to look at me as like I paid my dues. But at the same time that I'm, you know, doing this bid, I'm not being a father to my daughter who was born. I'm not being a good son to my moms. And those are all the people that were there for me while I was incarcerated. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's like this false illusion and this false narrative that in order for you to be a real man and to keep it 100, that you gotta go get locked up, you know, be shot, gang, and whatever you do. You know what I mean? If that's what makes you feel 100, cool. But I realize now, after like trying to keep it 100 with the streets my whole life, that that's not what makes me keep it 100.
When you got out, was it probation or anything you had to deal with, or just a straight rap?
Yeah, when I got out, I had probation for they had messed up on my sentence. I had probation for 1 year. I didn't know about it, but it wasn't like check-ins or nothing. It was just one unsupervised probation is what they call it.
And how did that go? Was that smooth?
Yeah. I got through the first year. I got out, joined the union. I was working. I was hustling.
Staying sober?
Nah. Okay. Nah. Back then, I used to think that like if you were still drinking and doing particular things, I probably stayed away from the cocaine for a while, but eventually I got back into it. But using drugs is a part of my story, man. Yeah, I'm always using drugs. And whatever I'm selling, I'm using. That's always seems to be a part of my narrative. It wasn't until as of 2016. When I came home in 2017, that I've ever lived a life that's not based on having a mind-altering substance in my system.
So you complete that probation, you're working in the union. That's not the end of the story. You got another state bid that comes up next. Talk to me about how much time was in between and then like what events led up to that.
But when I came home after that first state bid, that's when I first got introduced to a dope habit. And I remember I used to give my man quarters. And I used to give it to him for $225, and so he would sit there and tell me that like, he would sit there and give me 200, and he used to say, "Yo, I'm gonna give you a couple bags of these, and it's gonna make you, you know what I'm saying, it lasts longer." So I was like, all right. So then I tried it, and I kind of like fell in love with it. You know what I mean? So then I would bring him more packages, and he would give me those 2 bags. So one day I called my man up. I don't want to say his name because, you know, but I called him up and I was like, "Yo, man, I got the flu." Like, "You ain't got the flu." He's like, "Yeah, dope sick." I was like, "Man, I ain't no dope fiend." You know what I mean? I got money, I got clothes. I ain't no dope fiend. He was like, yo, you're dope sick. He was like, call me up, come meet me. And this is back when you couldn't go on Mission Hill unless you knew somebody. You know what I mean? This was, you know, if you went in there, so we went over to, he came and got me, we went over to Mission. I actually like sniffed that bag and instantly I felt better. And from that point on, having a dope habit has basically been the narrative.
So you feel better physically, right? You're not sick no more. Mentally, does something click in like, maybe I am?
To be honest with you, I took that as like another badge of honor. Like now I'm sniffing dope now. Like look at me, I'm that dude. Everything negative, because I'm sick, man. My mind is sick. I'm broken, you know what I mean? And so everything negative gives me this narrative that like it makes me cooler. It puts me more in the in crowd. And all it did was brought me around some people now that are like, being dope sick ain't no joke. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm a real good brother, but if I'm dope sick and you're the difference between me and getting that next one, I might do something that normally I wouldn't do in order to get that next one. So that's when I first realized that I was a dope fiend. And then I went out to, from there I went out to Mission Hill. Rest in peace to my man Paul Kima. You know what I mean? Me and him got mad cool. And we were out there hustling together, and he introduced me to all these people back on the low side. This is back when they had bags. I used to sell these bags called Red Eagle, and I made an alliance with the dudes at the top. They were like the Goya boys. As long as you stay down low end, you good. And so I went out there, and I had the American Eagle bags. Then they were like, "Yo, bring some Coke." So I didn't really know what Coke was. When I went in, everybody was selling powder out of tinfoil. Now I come out, everybody's selling crack. So I started off, I would make these $10 bags of crack. I'd give 10 out and tell people, yo, give me back $70. And so that's how I kind of made my way out there. Then when Mission got raided in '92, I had about 10 bricks, maybe 15 bricks. And I didn't know where to get rid of it now. And that's when I made my way out into to Framingham. Okay. You know what I mean?
And is that where you end up catching this next state bid?
Nah, so I ended up catching the next state bid in Mission Park. Okay. Right.
What goes on, and talk about Framingham a little bit though. Like what are you doing out there? Same thing?
So Framingham was $20 a bag. Okay. Right. So double. Now, yeah, it was double. So now you would think that mean I can make more money, but that really means that I can also make more money, but I can also get high some more. Right. So I had a stash house in Mission Park, and the girl wasn't home, so I climbed in the window, and I got the key to the front door. I climbed in the window. And when I climbed in the window, someone called and said I did a B&E. So I think I had 114 grams, like 50-something grams of powder, like 50-something, 60-something grams of crack. So all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, and boom, 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 it's the D-boys. I open it up, and they're like, you know, we just got a call, you did a B&E. And I'm like, nah, I got the key. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so I got the key right there. So they said, well, step back. They pat me down. I got 2 bags of dope on me. Damn. They said, well, now we got to do a sweep of the apartment. Wow. And so when I heard them coming, I thought I heard a walkie-talkie. So this is the old Century safe. I stashed it under the bed. And so they searched the whole apartment. They couldn't find it. And then the D-boy was like, because they had me sitting on the bed, he told me stand up. And when I stood up, they found the safe. Damn. And then he said, you know what? He said the same keys that you just said are yours that let you in the apartment, they also got the keys of the safe. 100 grams or more was looking at 10 years, and I got caught with 114. Okay. But when you get indicted to Superior Court, they reweighed the evidence. And when they reweighed the evidence, the water had like fizzled out of the crack because it had been sitting for a while. And then I was looking at 98. So that's when I ended up getting I was on like a year probation violation, and then I got 5 years on top of that forthwith. So I ended up doing like 6 years on the second state bid.
So you were pretty much going back and forth between Framingham and Mission, and then that you got caught up.
Once Mission got raided, you know what I mean? That's when I went out to Framingham full time. Okay. You know what I mean? And I've always been getting money everywhere. You know, I'm one of them dudes, I go everywhere. You know, multiple hustles. We'll have my hands in with the weed. We'll have my hands in with the coke. We'll have my hands in with this. And what I usually like to do is I'll give people stuff and then say, give me the money later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm still in the
Toughen
mix.
them
I'm
up.
still in the mix myself too. But you know, I know this is a short interview. I could go on and on about all the different stories about the hustling, because that's really my claim to fame. Hustling, being a fence, womanizing, and just having the gift of gab.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really what I do when I'm out there. And it's put me in some good positions, but it's also put those handcuffs on more often than not.
Ultimately, would you say it's worth it or not, and why?
Don't get me wrong, I had a good time. When things were going good, I had a good time. But when my second, you know, when you get locked up and you're dope sick and you're supposed to be this bona fide hustler, and now I'm laying on the floor, dope sick, like 180 to 90 pounds underweight. Nobody to come bail you out. You know, like once you go to bed and you wake up that next morning, that it's going to be an experience with that sickness. That dope sickness is something that like I never want to experience
Talk about
again.
that. How long does that last until finally you can sleep?
Oh man, so you're gonna feel serious problems. It depends if you're dope sick or coming off the methadone.
Well, just talk about your experience.
You're gonna have throw up, diarrhea, not be able to eat. Your boys might have to like carry you to the chow hall. You know, sometimes Nash used to stabilize you, or you would go upstate and they'd give you like Motrins. Like this last bit, I ended up kicking an 8-year run of all different type of drugs off of 0.5 of Ativan at night. So being dope sick is like, that can last anywhere. The real rough symptoms, probably like 8 days, 9 days. But then your stomach's gonna feel queasy, you're gonna feel weak. It takes about a month to 6 weeks to start to feel like yourself again, where you can like be in the yard, working out.
What's your mindset like after you kick that? Is it like, man, I'm never doing that again?
Yeah.
So my name is Lonell Robert Wells. I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm from the Port. We got an organization called Cambridge by Give Back. Cambridge by Give Back is an organization that we created in 2020 where we can bridge the connection between two groups in our community, where we can collect bikes from one group that does not need bikes and give them to a whole nother group that absolutely needs bikes. So we made one post on Facebook saying, if you want to give away a bike that you don't need, give it to us, we'll fix it up and we'll give it away for free. And we've been doing that since 2020. 2020, a bunch of stuff was going on. We was in a pandemic, we was in a global lockdown. George Floyd was murdered. There was a bunch of stuff going on. I felt it was my duty to be a better person and to give back to the community. We see so many people taken from the community. We see so many people taking advantage in the community. I just thought it was my duty to give back to the community. Ever since I was a kid, I always remember riding bikes. 6 years, I remember the day my father took off my trainer wheels and we was riding the bike and they taught me how to ride a bike. You know, so many things. I remember getting arrested for riding a bike, you know what I mean? Like for stealing a bike, just trying to ride a bike, you know what I'm saying? So my bikes and my bike path and everything with bikes been all throughout my life. And people should actually find something they love, something they enjoy for their life creation. And that's what I found. I love bikes, I love fixing bikes, I love riding bikes. I found a creation that I love and I made it something I can do for the rest of my life. A lot of kids have bikes now. A lot of kids, unfortunately, don't have to steal bikes. A lot of parents don't have to spend money on bikes. That's always good. Learning, bridging the connections, building allies, introducing allies to other allies. You know, I think it's like real community work when you have all these resources and you can share these resources with other like-minded people, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So the community I live in is thriving. It's looking good. I would absolutely love to see this program being a recycling company, a 100% recycling company where we are taking bikes 100% of the time and we are fixing them up and giving them away to the community and also sending them out to other communities and other allies. And I see a way where we can do this all year round. And not just in Massachusetts, it could be in New Hampshire, it can be in New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island. But yeah, I honestly see a bike recycling community company. Yeah, so Cambridge Bike Give Back at Gmail, or cambridgebygiveback@instagram.com. So Galleria Mall, you can check us out at Galleria Mall. We have mechanic night every Wednesday. Pop through on a Wednesday. We'll be over there hanging out.
Yeah, every single time I tell myself, I'll never do this again.
And you,
know what I
and
mean?
you stayed clean again, incarcerated that second time, and just talk about where did you get classified from Concord, and how did that?
So on my second bid, I went up to Walpole. I stayed there for like 90 days. And then I went from Walpole back down to Concord. Then I went back to Norfolk. This is in Concord when they took everybody to Texas.
Oh, okay. So you were up there.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that? Like, what was going on? Why were they sending people to Texas? How did they choose?
So they said that they were taking all sex offenders, but I don't really believe. Some of the dudes that I know down there were real ones, but they came through into different prisons. I was in Concord. They locked us all down about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And then when we woke up in the morning, there was a bunch of dudes gone. And then come to find out that they had taken a bunch of dudes to Texas. So when the next, about 2 days later, they were taking dudes down there to make room. They said that there was overcrowded, and they had a contract with some, I think it was in Dallas, with Dallas, and they sent a whole bunch of dudes down there. And then on the news, they tried to say that they were sex offenders, but I don't really believe that they were all. Was there probably something in there? I'm sure there probably was, but. Then the next day, about 2 days later, they told me to pack it up, that I was going to Norfolk. And when I got to Norfolk, the whole P1 and P2 was empty. And they would just like pick a bunk, you know what I mean? Damn. And then I picked a bunk. And so, on my second state bid, that's when I got in. All these brothers were on the quad saying, peace, God, peace, God. Peace, God. And they were in these circles and having these ciphers, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And then when I went over there, man, they were like dropping jewels, and brothers were building, and they were unifying, and so I got really attracted to that. So they used to have the brother Minister Farrakhan. He used to be up. They used to show his videos on Tuesday nights. True C, Raw Born, Supreme, True Love. All them brothers were up there, Glorious, you know what I mean? A whole bunch of, all the brothers were up there, and they were basically taking brothers. I was considered a newborn, and a newborn is like, newborn mentally, and they were the elders. And so Rob Bourne ended up becoming my enlightener. He took me through 120, first to 1 to 30. First he took me to the first 36 keys, the supreme mathematics, the 26 letters in the alphabet. Okay. That's the 36 keys to open up the door to 120. And then I started building. Farrakhan's my uncle by marriage. My mother's been married to his nephew for 34 years. Wow. So I've always had this connection with him, and it did something for my spirit to see these brothers up there doing the right thing. But then what would happen is I really know how to be righteous behind the wall, but then once I get into a minimum, I start smoking the cigarettes. I won't do no drugs, but I will sneak some cigarettes in. I will get indulged in stuff like that. And it was just like, then I get caught up in the gambling, the poker, the whiz, the football tickets, the gambling with the bookie. I'm always looking for something to get outside of myself, because the hardest thing in life was not only for me to be myself, but one of the hardest things for my life was for me to sit with myself. You know what I mean? I'm always looking for something outside of myself on the outside to make me feel good on the inside.
How long was this second bid, and then how long were you in Norfolk until the next stop?
So I was in Norfolk from 95 to, I was in Norfolk from 95 to 97. Okay.
And what was your sentence the second time around?
I had so I did a year probation up in Ricker, and then I went upstate for 5.5. Okay, I got you. So it was close to 6 years I did on the second bid. It was like 64 months or something like that. From there I went to SEC minimum, and then from there I kept getting lugged. There was this thing called the boot camp. I don't know if you. I never heard. No. Yeah, so when you used to get lugged for minimum, you would go to the boot camp, and we weren't up. We were just like, we were housed there, but the actual people that were doing the boot camp were next to it. Okay. So I went to the boot camp, and you would be there for like 90 days, and you would get reclassed. And then I went to Concord Farm from there. Okay. From Concord Farm, I went to Park Drive as a cadre, and then I ended up getting lugged back to the boot camp. You were still behind a fence and not behind a wall, but just behind a fence. It was considered a medium. and I ended up wrapping up from the boot camp.
Okay, and what were you getting lugged for? Just getting caught with the cigarettes?
So getting caught with cigarettes, arguing with staff. You know, I'm one of them dudes that, like, I might not be the one that's always gonna be arguing with my peoples, but I will argue with the police if I feel disrespect. And I realize now that it's just, you know, all fear. If my ego feels challenged, rather than me stepping down, or because I see everybody else arguing with the police and that gets you stripes, then I'm gonna do the same thing too. But it never ended up working out in my favor. I realize now that it's just better off for me to just like do what I gotta do in order to get out, you know, because those are all setbacks for me. You know what I mean? Every time you get lugged, you lose paperwork. There's different brothers that I was building with, different things that I was trying to accomplish, maybe different programs. And at the end of the day, man, all my lugs were based off about my ego, trying to impress somebody, you know what I mean? Or trying to basically not really looking at my behaviors, man, and just getting caught up in the moment. And then after I think about it, I'd be like, damn. You know what I mean? Now my family got to come back behind the wall. But I'm selfish. You know, I got a disease that causes me to be selfish, self-centered, egotistical, and it's all about me. So I don't care that now my mother used to just walk into a facility, but now she has to go back behind the wall, hold her mouth open, take her socks off, you know, unpull her bra open so she can come see me. So, you know, those are just things that I don't think about in the moment when I'm getting caught up.
And so you never at any point during that second bid had that voice in your head telling you, like, okay, maybe what I'm doing is egotistical, is self-centered, or is that not even a thing yet?
I was starting to become aware of it, but I kind of had a mentality that everything I do, like even on my second bid, that was the first time I ever did 90 days straight in the hole. And that even kind of like broke me. And that's when I really came to the realization that I didn't like myself. I hated going to the hole. And it wasn't because of the isolation. It was because I had to sit there and sit with myself. And when my mother would sit there and say, how are you getting in trouble in a prison? And then it's making it all difficult for family members to come see you, you know, to come get visit. I mean, the first time I saw my daughter, I was in Norfolk behind the wall. And multiple of my kids have come to visit me for years behind the wall. But I don't consider none of that when I'm in the streets. I don't consider the fact that, like, I grew up with a father without my father full time, and I see how that broke me. And then I sit there and do the same thing to my kids. And that's why it's like generational curses. When is someone going to step up and change the narrative and do something different? And that's basically what I'm doing now. Like, I really, when we talked about coming on the show, I know that mad dudes get on here and talk about all the negative and all the tough stuff we got upstate. I made it my purpose to come on here and talk and make myself look weak, make myself vulnerable, make brothers see that, like, I know when we're acting that particular way, it's because we're trying to mask something. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, man, some of the nicest and kindest and realest people I met were killers. You know what I mean? You know, my first roommate, I came upstate. I walked in the cell, and he was my first roommate. His name was Stewart, Stewart L. And he sat there, and I was like, "What you here for?" And he was like, "Man, I'm here for blowing someone's head off." You know what I mean? And he taught me how to conduct myself, the ins and outs, certain ways not to speak to people. He taught me like how to get into programs, how to do something different, what people to hang around, what people not to hang around, you know, different type of things to do. He really instilled some morals and values. Did I take heed to all of them back then? Nah. But now later on in life, even some of that stuff that he embedded with me in 1990, I can carry with me now. Some of the, there was a dude, my man, he was, he came into, when on this last bid that I just did, he had 3 naturals. And I was like, yo, fam, how are you always happy all the time? And he was like, I'll show you in the yard tomorrow. And we went out to the yard, and that's when we started doing yoga in the yard. And that really taught me how to be comfortable in my own skin, you know what I mean? We were out there doing yoga poses and different stuff and not caring about what everybody else was thinking. And a couple of my boys was trying to clown me. And I was like, yo, you over here telling stories about being a killer, but I'm over here doing yoga with a real killer. And I'm forever grateful for him because he kind of put me in tune then But like that's when my spiritual journey started. That's when my journey of transformation started. And doing the drug program this time actually started to like really change my life and gave me, you know, we had to do something in the CRA, positive every single day. And like I really started getting into it and really trying to like do something positive, and I really started feeling good about myself. So, you know, trying to stand out versus fitting in, I know now is definitely the move.
Absolutely. So you end up finishing that second state bid. What was, other than the fact that, you know, maybe you didn't like sitting with yourself, you didn't like yourself, what was the biggest thing you learned about yourself other than that?
That if I give myself a chance, that I can go places that I never thought I could go.
Okay.
I would go through these experiences when I was incarcerated where I really felt good about life. I know now it was because I was in tune with my circadian rhythm, which means when you go to bed at a certain time, you wake up at a certain time, you take naps, you work out, you do your spiritual work or your reading or whatever. And I just realized now that like a lot of those, I would feel real good about myself because I was in a rhythm. You know what I mean? And I don't know what it would be, but I would get out and I just could not maintain the rhythm. And that's why I tell people now that there's a difference between getting out and staying out. And the problem kind of is all my plans were just based off of getting out, but I never really had a blueprint and a plan to stay out.
Okay. So you get out, but you end up coming back again. So you end up getting back on drugs and everything. What's that like first time from when you're clean, you're in state prison, you get out, you're clean. What's the conversation like the first time that leads to you justifying taking that drink or drug the first?
Because I didn't know. So what would happen is I would think that I could come home because I wasn't aware then. I called myself an alcoholic or an addict. I went to my first detox at 16, and I've called myself an alcoholic or an addict my whole life, but I never knew why. I was just being a parakeet, right? And what happened was I would come home and I'll drink. And then once I drink, at the end of every bottle of liquor is a bag of Coke.
Wow.
And then as time evolved as a crack pipe. Then as time evolved as a needle. You know what I mean? And so I never knew that any mind-altering substance is eventually going to take me back to my drug of choice. And as my life has gone on, the drug of choice always evolves into something greater. Like I always said, well, I'm sniffing Coke, but I'll never smoke it. I started doing that. Well, I'm sniffing dope, I'll never shoot it. Then I started doing that. So it always just continues. My mind tells me that, like, at least I ain't doing that other stuff. But what happens is it always just starts off with something small, a little drink, a little drug. And that's just a pure ignorance because the whole time I'm incarcerated, I'm never educating myself about what got me there. I know a dope habit got me there. I know my behaviors with hustling got me there. And my whole bid, I don't address any of the issues that actually got me there. You know what I mean? It's all just about trying to put up this facade so that I can continue to fit in, get a $75 bag, have all these pictures of girls look at me, go to the gym, bench 225 15 times. Everybody like, yo, big math. Back then they used to call me Divine. My first bidder was Dawu. My second bidder was Divine. And then this bid, I had a spiritual experience where I was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna start calling myself Mathematics.
And then you get the third state bid. Is this your last one?
Nah.
Okay, so just tell me what that sentence is and what do you, like, you keep getting state bids. What's going on? Is it another drug charge?
Yeah.
Talk about
so
that.
My third state bid was I bought my stepson with me to make a play over on Heath Street, and I told the dude, make sure you put it in your mouth, and he didn't.
Wow.
And so when he walks over to the train station, he gets bagged. These boys are like, follow that car. They follow the car, and I was married at the time to a girl from Costa Rica. I got her 11-year-old son in the car with me.
Damn.
They sit there and go to the crib. They lock me up, bring me over to Green Street train station. I stopped hustling in Cambridge. After I did that first state bid, all my bids come out of Boston now. You know what I mean? And once I went upstate, because one of the things is like being from Cambridge, you always got to prove yourself. You're not a lame. You know how dudes from the Bean are always saying lame bridge and all this stuff. So all my bids were about proving that we ain't lame. You know what I mean? But I'm cool with mad different Boston dudes from all over now. Any set you name, I know dudes from it. Yeah, so they basically locked me up. They took her 11-year-old son home, and they said to him, to her, if you don't show us where the drugs are, we're gonna call immigration. Eventually, after a while, she finally had to give in. They found some cash, they found some dope, they found some coke, and then that's what opened up the door for my second state bid. And I was clean at the time. They have clean cells for clean addicts, so I was living clean, living dirty, but I was clean. And that's when I realized that they have clean cells for clean addicts. That was the most amount of time I ever had, was 2 years, 11 months.
Oh, wow.
And in that time, I was selling dope.
So that's in between your second and third state
So
bid?
this is what's opening up the door to my third state bid now. This was the first time I ever got some clean time while not being incarcerated. 2 years, 11 months. So when I got out, I ended up and I was doing some big things. You know what I mean? It was probably the most amount of money I ever had. I got married. Now I had my justice. I was on my second child. I had my son in the union. I had had a nice whip. This is back when spinners were out. I had spinners. You know what I mean? Diamonds. I was going to the club all the time. I was doing some things. So,
but how during all this, how were you feeling inwardly about yourself?
Still broken.
Yeah.
That's why I was momentizing. Still broken. You know, I've been broken, man, since I was born. You know what I mean?
So you're distracting yourself.
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
lifestyle,
just exactly.
like
Yeah,
Do you end up staying clean the whole time before your third state bid, or do you end up slipping a little bit?
So when it happened is when I picked up that case, I was like, frig it, I'm getting locked back up. I might as well.
So you made a bail, hit the street.
I made a bail. My bail was $10,000. I bailed out on 10, went to the lawyer a couple of days later, gave him like 18, and he told me that he would be able to, he said, Math, with your record, I'm probably not going to be able to do much, but I'm going to get you the best deal that I can. Like a week later, I was working in the construction and then selling cocaine on the job, and a dude called me up for a couple grams, and I made his package, and then I relapsed on mine too. So
yeah, and that's how it started.
And as soon as I did it, there was this voice in my head, and it was like, yo, you know you fucked up, right? You know what I mean? I usually don't swear, but I had to put some emphasis on that. But in 2 years, 11 months, I threw it out the window, and then a couple of weeks later, I relapsed on dope. And then this is when Suboxones first came out. Okay. And my man Troy, may he rest in peace, asked me to hold his Suboxones. So now I got a little chipper, and I'm trying to get back on board. I don't want no one to know I relapsed. Right. And I had 8 Suboxones. That morning I took a half of one, and I thought I put it back. So I get a phone call. There was 8 left. I get a phone call that my son's not waking up from his grandmother. And I'm like, what you mean? And she said, I can't wake up Justice. And then she said, how many of those pills you had? And I said 8. And she said, well, there's only 7. And my son had swallowed a whole Suboxone. Wow. Yeah.
Did he have to go to the hospital?
Yeah, they had to rush him to the hospital. He ended up making it to the other side. And, you know, the D boys are waiting for me to get off the elevator so that they could snatch me up. They tried to charge his grandmother after he was good with child endangerment, and I ended up taking the hit. So my third bid was trafficking cocaine for the 3rd time, and then a child endangerment charge for my son swallowing the Suboxone.
And what's the numbers of the bid?
3 years and a day.
Okay.
So now I got a 3 to 5, I got 6, and now 3 years and 1 day. Now I'm a habitual. Yeah, so now I got the habitual. You know, I stay out for 8 years, but now when I get out in 2008. Between 2008 and 2016, I got 7 overdoses. Wow. Professional couch surfer now. The hustle's basically gone out the window. 2013, I'm on Mass Ave for 3 years. Wow. I went down to get on 30 milligrams of methadone. I ended up being stuck down there for 3 years.
What's that lifestyle like down there? Talk about that, man.
Oh, man.
It seems like it's chaos.
It wasn't as severe because you couldn't, you know, COVID made it where you could do things openly in front of the police and go all out. But when I was out there, you had that, we were still
But
doing what
is
you
it
had.
still, is it like it's a street mentality? Like, gotta stay on your toes, prison?
It's definitely. Anytime you involve in drugs and money, like I told you, when it comes to being dope sick, man, it's by any means necessary to get the next one. I done been a fence. I done been a booster. I know what it's like to go in Newbury Street, get $400-500 pair of glasses, and run down the street.
I heard stories of cops dressing up like addicts down there, even hustlers trying to sell so they blend in. You see a lot of that going on down there.
That was happening down there where they were going down. But when you don't trust somebody, we used to like tell dudes, yo, you got to do something in front of me in order for me to serve you. And then if they take the bling, then you know that you're good. Being down there, man, I used to call it the Bermuda Triangle for me. I would go from Mass Ave to Dudley to Orchard Park, back to Mass Ave, or I would go from Mass Ave to Lenox, from Mass Ave to Dudley to Lenox to Mass Ave. And those were like 2 triangles that I could get stuck in. You know what I mean? I would go down there in the morning and have the best intentions to just go down there, get my dose, come out of there, go home, do what I got to do. I would go down there at 8 in the morning. It'd be like 9, 10 o'clock at night, man. And now I'm like, half the time I couldn't even get money to get on the bus.
Damn.
And one of the hardest things to do, being a full-blown addict, is actually to hold the wake up. You know what I mean? And a wake up's like when you're gonna wake up dope sick, so you need something in the morning so that you're not sick. Okay. You know what I mean?
It's that instant gratification. You can't thinking about tomorrow morning. So now you leads up to you getting locked up again for a 4th time.
So I'm down Mass Ave. I've left the Union now. I'm down there selling pills at McDonald's. Keep going. Go ahead. I'm down there selling pills at McDonald's. I sell some pills to a person. He sits there and says that he bought the pills for me, and I get locked up. And my mother had to make a decision whether she wants to come get me or leave me there. And now Ma Dukes has gone to Al-Anon, and that's when it kind of hit me that I threw my whole life away, because I was in Nashua Street. I'm coming up the stairs, and the dude was like, yo, what's up, OG? And I looked at him, and I was like, OG. Then when I got in the cell and I went and I looked in the mirror, and I seen like how I looked, and I was like, damn, man, you're 44. You first came in here, you were 17. Now you're 44, you really were an OG. My grandmother, who was 97 and passed away, and I was begging my mother to come get me so that I could go to her funeral. She was almost getting ready to come get me, and this lady called her up and told her, if you go get your son, you're gonna bury him too.
Wow.
And she left me there on a $300 bail. And this big time drug dealer growing up, guy that had all the girls, big union guy, I couldn't even, in the end, running up and down the Ave and being completely strung out, I couldn't even make a $300 bail.
How does that make you feel about yourself at that point?
Oh, come on, man, crushed me, man. I was broken, man. My self-esteem at an all-time low, dignity at an all-time low, pride at an all-time low. And then when I got to Concord, all the dudes that I was running with on the street, one dude gave me a piece one night, but it takes like 10 days for your money to transfer from Nash upstate. So everybody was like, nah, man, I can't give you nothing because I need the money now, and it takes too long for the money to transfer. And that was like a way, and I would like to tell you I bailed out on the 300, but they ended up putting me on the bracelet.
Now, when these dudes that are like your boys, they're telling you, like, oh, I need the money up front. How does it make you feel like, because that's all you got is your rep in there sometimes, bro.
Like, and at the time, it just got to show me that this is a dog-eat-dog world, and that I've reached an element now where there's no more loyalty, there's no more respect, and there's no more taking care of each other. This is, it's a dog-eat-dog. And I get it. Dudes are also trying to make sure you ain't trying to give me something for free when you got someone else that will give you $100 for that same piece that you're trying to give me for free. But my man Nine Ball, he bailed me out and gave me some sleep meds like 4 nights in a row. And kind of like, that really helped me get some rest, and then I ended up getting back out. And I would like to tell you I still stayed clean then, but I ended up working out a deal. They wanted to give me a 10 to 12 because now I'm habitual criminal. When you get to habitual, now it's not, you don't just have the case, then you have to fight the habitual on top of that. So it was an addict case that I had picked up in Fields Corner, 3 grams of crack, 1 gram of dope. I had a needle and a crack pipe on me. Second subsequent offense for everything. So they wanted to give me a 10 to 12. They ended up saying, we'll drop the habitual and give me 2 years in South Bay. I was like, nah, we ain't having that.
Why was that? You want, okay, upstate.
Yeah, I got to go upstate. I can't do 19 months in no one unit. And that's when this whole transformation, and that's why now my one of my mantras is from Mass Ave, the spiritual path, Math.
When does that spiritual path begin? Is it in Concord or?
Well, when I went to Walpole this time, and I didn't have my police report, and so I did some Suboxone when I got there. Every night I used to put my mattress on the floor, and dudes were like, "Yo, man, why are you putting your mattress on the floor?" Because I was like, that means in the morning I got no choice but to come up. I had nothing. I usually can go into prison in front, get some canteen, get some good girls to come up and visit me, take care of me, and I can put on a facade that I had it going on in the street. But I told my mother, I was like, yo, I need to go back into your womb, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We made a pact that she'll send me $20 a week until $80 a month until I get out. And I just kind of like lived off of that, and then I went to Plymouth, and I was on, I think it was F2 or something like that, because I didn't have my police report. They considered it an open case. Then I went down there, and then they put me in the drug program, and that's when it all started. We had to do something like recovery based every day. We had to do writings. Then we had to read the writings in front of like everybody. And dudes would be like, yo, man, that shit you wrote was fire. Then I started writing poetry. I started doing all these stuff. And I've always had a gift, but I never wanted to exploit my gift because I wanted to do what everybody else was doing. I wanted to do whatever was cool. I wanted to do whatever would get me respect. Walpole ended up saying I was a radical Muslim because I was down there teaching brothers a nation of God's and earth. Plymouth, they shipped me back to Walpole. This time here, this dude, my man Timmy, he came by, gave me a piece of Suboxone one day. Then he came back the next day and he told me he was gonna give me another piece. He didn't. And I wanted to go into guerrilla mode, you know what I mean? Like, doing what I had to do. And I had to think about it. There was the last time that I did it was when he gave it to me. And ever since then, September 13th, 2016, that's my clean date. You know what I mean? The last time I did a hard drug was April 13th, 2016. And I went down to Shirley. When I got down to Shirley, I get out the van. Everybody's smoking K2. I call it Laffy Taffy. I don't know what it was. Normally I indulge in all that stuff, but I turned it down. Another dude came, asked me, do I want to smoke a cigarette? I turned it down. And then slowly but surely, man, I started feeling empowered. You know what I mean?
Why do you think you took to it this time, fighting the addictions?
Yo, man, I was tired, man. I used to sit there and cry.
Tired of being sick and tired, right? That's what
they had the MP3s. I'd have all these slow jams on. I used to, I realize now that tears are healing water. I used to be sitting there crying, looking out the window at the max. I'd be laying in bed crying, man. All the emotions from being on a run for 8 years, man, just stuffing those emotions with the drugs. All the being at bus stops, nodding out. All the pain that I put my kids through, owing all the black child support. Babies' mothers telling me you ain't shit. Babies' mothers telling me, man, I should have let you die. All the times I used to go to detoxes, man, and be the man and have all the cigarettes. Now I'm going into detoxes with the clothes on my back. To go from being the man to actually picking up cigarette butts off the ground to smoke just because I ain't got no money. All the money went to the drugs. But I will say that this was the first time I ever went to court, and my godfather was there, rest in peace, Ronnie Glover, and my other godfather, Barbara Evelyn, and my lawyer. We all prayed, you know what I mean? And when I say pray, I mean put positive energy into the universe. If you believe in a mystery, whatever, but positive energy for me into the universe. And when the judge said to me, he said, man, you seem like a pretty smart dude. I'm going to accept this plea today and drop this habitual. But he said, you should go in there and educate people and come home and do that. And he said that to me April 13th of 2016. And I've lived up to the promise. I said, I'm going to do that. And I went in. And this bit here, I was like the OG that everybody respected. But they didn't respect me because of what everybody else was doing. Dudes respected me like, yo, Go ask math. You know, I almost had a lot of beef. Everybody upstate now is using the nigga word. You know,
What, like white dudes and
white
stuff too?
dudes, Asian. I couldn't, you know, I couldn't make the adjustment. Everybody's yelling up at Walpole, yelling out to cells all night. It just the game done changed, man. And I was just like, yo, man, you know. But I know now that pain is the father of change. I did the drug program, and it really started making me feel good about myself. This lady came up and she said to me, she asked me if I wanted to go to further treatment, and I normally I would just go home. I had no probation, no parole. I had intentions of just going back down Mass Ave, doing what I do, and I went to further treatment, man, and that's when the whole kind of like game changed, and things really started to change and I started to make a difference. And you know, some dudes clown the CRA, you know, it helped me change. Hey. You know what I mean? Sometimes I need someone to show me, like force me to do something, and then I realize after they force me, I kind of like it. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And then that's when my whole transformation came. And so after doing all that time, you know, I came home, I took the Nurturing Fathers program. I have 5 kids now by 5 different babies' mothers. And that's a little drama, you know what I mean? But they all cool. Yeah. They all cool. You know, I used to make babies to prove who I was with women and think that was gonna make me a man. But I took a Nurturing Fathers program, and then I started working in the recovery field this time. So now I've been doing that since I've been home. So nice. It's been a good transformation. And then after doing all that time, 15 winters and 14 summers, I was able to get the opportunity to work in Dedham House of Correction as a recovery coach and have a recovery navigation class that I'm able to run, and got my own little movement, like going into the stools, motivatedbymath.com. That's my website. That's my movement. The MBM stands for Music by Mathematics, Means by Mathematics, Motivation by Mathematics, and Mentor by Mathematics. And I've brought brothers, you know, brought my man Stephen Pena into the schools with me. Salute. Shout out to my man X of Fame. I bring him in with me. We do he got a story, bring in the music. I brought in Ange with me. I do a lot of different stuff. I try to put as many people on as I can.
Yeah, why do you think that's important? Because you could have just took everything you learned and be like, I'm out of here. I ain't going back. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to put prison in this life, and everything is far behind me as I can. Why do you think it's important to give back?
I mean, in the dictionary, the word gives comes before receive. And the more I give, for some reason, the more I receive. And the only way I can keep it is if I give it away. You know, my sponsor, Pugs and Chris, they were kind enough to freely 12-step me and introduce me to the 12 steps and give me, and those people that came up to visit me when I was incarcerated, you know, they introduced me to people that freely took their time to show me the way and help me out and learn different ways that I can live, and introduce me to different ways to work on character defects, work on flaws, how I can address fear, how can I address resentment, and these different narratives that I can take to kind of enhance my life. I ain't perfect, far from it, but every single day I'm making progress. You know what I mean? The only thing I do perfectly now is I don't do a drink and I don't do a drug. But everything else for me is just progress.
Awesome, and you should be proud of yourself for sure. What would you say if you had to pick, and I know it's a combination of a bunch of things, I'm sure, but what would you say is the biggest factor in your sobriety?
Ritual and routine.
Okay.
I call it RBA.
Talk about that. What's your daily ritual and routine, man?
So I wake up at 5 in the morning. I send out some recovery motivation to about 115 people. Then after that, I do my gratitude list. I do 5 to 10 goals for the day. Then I write, I need more acceptance around blank. Then I put 5 positive affirmations. I'm a good person. I'm a good father. I'm broken, but I'm healing. And then I write, my ego blocks me from blank. Then I go to another piece of paper and I write a 2-way prayer. Then I do the daily reflection. Then I read 5 pages out of a book. I do cold water therapy every morning. I work out for a half hour. I start out with some tea, some room temperature water, and then I do some either bead work. I got these beads, these mala beads. Nice. So I do mantras that I go around with that. I either do some bead work, or I do meditation, or I do some breath work, and that grounds me for the day. Because if you win the morning, you win the day. RBA stands for recovery-based accountability, routine-based accountability, ritual-based accountability, and reversing recidivism-based accountability. And then now I'm also a full-time, I forgot to throw that in there, dad too.
Awesome.
You know, I take care of my daughter full-time, and I get her up, get her ready for school. Before she can get on the iPad, she has to write a gratitude list.
Nice.
I give her positive affirmations to write about herself. I am beautiful. I'm gonna go to college. I am learning. I love mommy, whatever. And now she's getting, you know, acclimated with it too. And she writes a happy list during the school week on top of her gratitude list on a weekly basis, man. So my mother sleeps really good at night now. I have a relationship with all my kids except for one. I have 2 grandkids too. I'm extra busy. I don't get to see them all the time like I should. But I love you with all my heart, Kayla, and my grandkids too. And
That's amazing.
and you know, I just do what I gotta do, man. I help other people. I got a sponsor. I got sponsees. You know, some stuff I do for free.
How important is the sponsorship, man? Because we can't do it alone, man.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people that, like, just like I need a drug dealer to get my drugs, just like I need a liquor store to get my liquor, or I need a bar to get my liquor, just like I need a pharmacy so I can get my pills that I can abuse. If I need all those things to get the negative, right, they get me in prison, get me in detoxes, get me in situations that I don't want to be in, then I'm probably going to need some help to help me stay out of that situation. And so the opposite of alcohol and addiction is connection. This is a we program, not a me program. So when I
always say life's a team sport. But
it's a team. Well, you know, they say the team stands for together everyone achieves more. That's what the meaning of team is.
Okay.
So when you take that W in the we and you turn it upside down, you get the me. So me is the problem and we is the solution. And I say me because my mind and my ego is the problem, right?
Yeah.
My mind is sick. My mind tells me certain things. That's why I need prayer. That's why I need meditation to quiet that down. And then my ego tells me that, like, I'm the flyest thing since French toast and the sweetest thing since syrup. You know what I mean? My ego's based off of, like, I want, I need, and I should, or you should. And it's basically like always want something. You know what I mean? And the first letter in E, the ego is E, because it's all based off of expectations. You know what I mean?
What advice would you have for somebody, maybe they just, similar situation, just got out of prison, they're sober, they're trying to stay sober, they got no probation, they don't have that leash, they don't have anything. What advice would you give to somebody?
What the problem is 85% of the people that are incarcerated are there for drug-related crimes, but everybody's in the prison acting like they don't got a drug problem. You know what I mean? So the best advice I can give to someone that's coming out is trust the process, right? Go to long-term treatment, you know what I mean? Figure out some type of program. I practice the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I indulge in anything that's positive. But you really have to get a support system in and give yourself a chance. The resources are there. It's not going to be quick like hustling. You know, your boy giving you a pack, that's just sending you back. You have to sit there, man, and learn how to sit, trust the process, and then little by little, you're going to build momentum and grow. When we come home, most of us are coming home from prison, we're addicted to instant gratification. We want everything yesterday, and that's not how this works. We come home and see our boy who's been grinding and doing what he got to do for 10 years. We want everything he has. And then that's what puts dudes back out in the street. And at the end of the day, you know, my whole life was about presenting as Gucci on the outside, Kmart on the inside, lobster on the outside, penny candy on the inside. At the end of the day, if you work on the inside, you don't need all that stuff that everybody has on the outside. Right. So really just
the best you is going to get all that. There's no way you can be the best version of yourself and not get a car, not get, like,
If they would have told me when I came home from prison and I was 44, almost 46 years old with a $70 check, the clothes on my back, a state shirt, some state flip-flops, some state jeans. If they told me I'd be in the position I was in right now, I would have never believed them. But what I did was I stayed down. In the dictionary, the word down comes before up. You got to stay down before you can come up. You know what I mean? That's just how it goes. So for me, even if we go back to the dictionary, the word recovery, it comes before work. It comes before working out. It comes before women. It comes before relationships. It comes before sex. it comes before success, it comes before travel, it comes before school. If I work on the recovery, all that stuff under it is going to happen. But anything I try to put in front of my recovery, I'm probably going to lose.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah, that song's coming out February 22nd. Express yourself. Take care of your mental health.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Take time to express yourself. And that's really what we're just trying to get brothers to do, man, and our sisters, is learn how to express yourself, because a lot of us got a lot of trauma, a lot of fear, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of low self-esteem, and we're not expressing ourselves. We're medicating ourselves.
Absolutely. So what else you got going on as far as the music and the poetry? Where could people find you? And you got any events coming up soon that if people want to pop up?
We have the video for Express Yourself drops February 22nd. Myself and Exit Fame, we're dropping Gratitude probably the first week of March. Me and my man Herbie H from Eggleston, we're gonna drop Heart Cry. That's for the mothers. We basically took the song, I can't see him coming down your eyes. I know I made your heart cry. Jay-Z song Cry. We switched it into Heart Cry. And so we got those three things are gonna drop. I'm currently on all music platforms. I just came out. On YouTube, I'm Motivated by Mathematics. On Instagram, I'm Motivated by Mathematics. On TikTok, I'm Motivated by Mathematics. On Facebook, I'm Mathematics MX Grams. But my website is motivatedbymath.com, and you can reach all my links from there. So I do have a poetry event Friday that I'm doing at the Dublin House. No, it's February 9th is that event at the Dublin House. Then February 10th, I'll be at an event. It's at the Art Gallery in Brockton. Okay. That's gonna be, Mike Smith. Shout out Mike Smith. He asked me if I'd come and perform today. I'm gonna be doing that. I'm also getting ready to start a 13-week course at 200 Bowden Street. It's gonna be a 13-week class. Be drum therapy, music therapy, routine, ritual. Different speakers coming in. We're doing some yoga healing, some massage healing, some of the importance of gratitude, the difference between getting out and staying out. I'll be serving food with each class, and then if you complete the class, you get a T-shirt and you get a $25 gift certificate, and you'll get a
How does one get involved with these classes?
So they can either email me at mathematicsmxgrams@gmail.com. The classes are going to be on Thursday nights at 200 Bowden Street for 6 to 8. I think I can hold up to 30 people. I'll be posting about that stuff on social media. And brothers can come and you can either come and just do the knowledge, you can come and participate, you know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever it is that you choose to do. I know I'm not gonna save everybody or help save everybody, but if I can just give one person some jewels that can help them change their life, then I actually did what I'm supposed to do. And like anybody that's out there, I'm trying to be the next DJ Khaled of positive music. So if anybody out there, positive, uplifting stuff, if you got to say certain things to get the point across, but there's enough out there like money, hoes, and clothes, and nigga, and all that. There's enough of that. I'm trying to create a narrative, man, where if brothers just want to present something or queens want to present something where they're themselves, they can feel comfortable doing that. So I'm going to be dropping.
I'm going to have to tap in because you heard me playing the music when you
came.
That
was dope.
I told you I haven't really been in, and that's part of it because of the message. I don't stand by those beliefs anymore, and I don't glorify that stuff. So I'm glad you're doing that, and that might be the spark I needed to get back into writing the music, man, for sure.
And what happens is a lot of people don't know there's grants out there when you're presenting positive. When I go into the schools and you're presenting positive, when people are having events like the city's having events, if you have some N-word free and swear free music, they'll hire you to come on and do that thing. I mean, there's opportunities out there for motivational speaking, for presenting as poetry, for doing different things. And the same way you're getting to a bag in them streets, I'm getting to a bag doing this positive thing.
That's why I might need your guidance in that because I'm trying to do. It's just sometimes it's like what you want to do, what you have to do, but it's the how. So that I'll definitely touch base with that. Before I let you go, if there was anything you wanted to touch on, or some last closing words before I let you go, now's your chance if you want to expound on that or last words.
I just want people to know, man, that recovery and healing is gangster. Being yourself is gangster. Being a father to your kids is gangster. Respecting your moms is gangster. Giving back to your community is gangster. Journaling is gangster. Writing poetry and spoken word is gangster. Doing meditation is gangster. Journaling is gangster, right? I just want people to know that, you know, the real gangster is what you're doing that not only benefits you, but also benefits others.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not what you could get from this world. It's what you could give to it. Nobody is remembered for what they got from the world.
Yes. The three most, you know, if you look at Jesus died broke, Gandhi died broke, Malcolm X died worth $400, Martin Luther King died broke, and we all know who those people are, right? Most people that leave an impression on the world, they all had impressions and did stuff for other people to help make them better. Absolutely. Most of the drug dealers that I grew up with idolizing, most of the dudes that, you know, we grew up listening to in rap music, them dudes are forgotten about, man. A lot of them turned snitch. A lot of them are dead. Or a lot of them are up in the feds or upstate doing forever. Forgotten about. You know how it is.
Yep, absolutely.
After you upstate for 18 months, your boys done forgot about you and they trying to sleep with your girl. You know what I mean? No one's going by the crib, checking on your kids, checking on your moms, making sure she's shoveled out. So I just want people to know that, like, transformation is possible. There is some work that you have to do. But it's each one teach one makes a better someone, man. We need to sit there and start educating each other. Too many brothers, man, are hating on each other or competing with each other. Competition breeds misery, right? Jealousy breeds misery. We're going to get more together. I'd rather have a piece of pie than have no pie. Yeah. So if I'm doing a project with 7 people and I'm getting some pie, it's better than me hating and standing on the outside and getting no pie. You know what I'm saying? So that's why when I tell brothers, they be putting the peace sign like this. It's together we stand, divided we fall, right? The more things we do together, the stronger we stand. It's divided we fall. Absolutely. This is ego, this is humility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What is it? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Exactly.
For sure. We could definitely get more done together. And it's not just like addition. It's not like 2 people could get done the work of 2 people. It's almost like 1 + 1 = 10, not 2. When it comes to that, you know what I mean?
Because if you learn something, you're going to teach 3 people. If I learn something, I'm going to teach 3 people. I mean, look at, for instance, to show you how it's contagious. Alcoholics Anonymous was supposed to be for 150 to 200 people, right? Anywhere on the planet right now, there's 10 million people recovering using 12-step programs. Wow. And besides the Bible, Alcoholics Anonymous has sold 250 million books in 170 different languages, right? Wow. So that just goes to show you, if you sit there and take something positive and everybody goes out and shares it, it can evolve into something great.
Absolutely,
you know
phenomenal, bro. I appreciate you coming through. For real, I appreciate your story, man. It definitely has value, and you pulling up, I truly appreciate it. So,
I just want to make sure I say that, like, I've never met you before.
Yep.
And you were, when I text you, you were open, you were warm, you were respectful, you were kind, and you put me in a position to come on here and get this. We need more brothers like yourself, man. And the whole time during this whole interview, you weren't trying to act a particular way or ask questions that are going to get you more views. You actually just sat there and rolled with this, man. So I really appreciate. And I got hip to this because my man Justin Holmes came on here, and I was highly impressed with his interview. Like, me and Justin that's my man, and I was highly impressed with his interview. And then he said, yo, I'm going to put you on with Barbie. And then the laws of the universe connected. We ended up making it happen. Shout out, Justin, but we still made it happen, man.
Absolutely, man. Guys, it is what it is. What's next is what you make it. On that note, I'm B. Luke. That's Mathematics. It is what it is. Peace out, y'all.
Peace.
Bounce back, ain't got a moment. When they see you down, just know they love it.